The man kneeling at the small grave in Riverside Memorial Cemetery looked like every parent's worst nightmare. 6'4", covered in Hell's Angels patches, thick beard streaked with gray, sobbing into his calloused hands. But the homeless boy watching him from behind a crumbling mausoleum knew something impossible. His daughter wasn't dead. For 4 days, Tommy Sullivan had been sneaking food to a 12-year-old girl hiding in Chicago's abandoned Cook County Hospital. A girl who kept whispering a name that matched the gravestone 20 feet away. The date on that grave said Emma Rose Carter died 8 days ago. The girl Tommy found with welts across her back and chemical burns on her arms, she'd been alive 4 days ago. In the next 70 minutes, one homeless boy's desperate confession would expose a child trafficking operation operating inside Chicago's foster care system and mobilize 240 bikers who were about to prove that sometimes justice doesn't carry a badge. It carries a worn stuffed rabbit and the truth nobody wanted to hear. Now, let me tell you how Tommy Sullivan saved a girl who was buried alive by the system meant to protect her. Sir, she's in the hospital. She's alive. She's been waiting for you. The words hung in the bitter February air between Tommy Sullivan and the massive man kneeling at the grave. His voice barely carried over the wind whipping through skeletal trees. 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow crunching under his 3 sizes too large boots. The left sole flaps with every step, making that distinctive sound. Thump scrape. Thump scrape. He'd been watching him for almost 3 hours. Watching this giant of a man, 6'4", covered in tattoos and a thick gray-streaked beard, leather patches that read Hell's Angels and Sergeant-at-Arms, cry like a broken father at a small grave marker. He'd almost left 5 times. His fingers were numb even inside the 2 pairs of socks he wore as makeshift gloves, tucked deep into the sleeves of his oversized donated parka. The ripped lining let the cold straight through to his bones. But he'd made a promise to a little girl who'd given him her only possession, a ratty stuffed rabbit missing 1 ear, and whispered, "Show Daddy. He'll know it's mine." Now, you might be thinking a 13-year-old homeless boy approaches a Hell's Angel at a cemetery, and nothing good comes from that. That's not the story you expected, is it? But Tommy wasn't thinking about stereotypes. He was thinking about Emma's face 4 days ago when he'd found her in that abandoned hospital room. Her lips were purple from the cold, her small body trembling so violently the cardboard boxes she'd buried herself under rattled like wind chimes. The man's head snapped up. His face was wet with tears, his eyes swollen and bloodshot behind his thick beard. 4 seconds. Tommy counted them the way his grandmother had taught him to count through fear. He just stared at him. Then his expression shifted to something darker. "Get lost, kid." His voice was rough gravel, dismissive. He turned back to the grave. Tommy's hands shook. Every instinct screamed, "Run." But he saw Emma in his mind, heard her wet cough, remembered the burn marks on her small arms. "Sir, I need to tell you something." His voice cracked. He swallowed, tried again. "About your daughter." The man froze slowly, like a bear deciding whether to charge or ignore. He stood to his full height. The patches on his vest caught the fading afternoon light. Hell's Angels. Chicago. Sergeant-at-Arms. A winged skull. Names Tommy couldn't read from this distance. He was terrifying standing up. Tommy took an involuntary step back. His boot caught on ice. He stumbled but didn't fall. "What did you just say?" The words came out low. "Dangerous." Tommy forced his frozen fingers to dig into his coat pocket. They closed around the small stuffed animal. He pulled it out, held it forward with a shaking hand. It was a rabbit, small, gray fabric worn thin from years of being held. 1 ear missing, button eyes hanging by threads. "Your daughter, Emma," Tommy whispered. "She gave me this. Said to show you. Said you'd know it was real." The man stared at the rabbit. His face went white. Actually white. Like blood had drained from his skin in an instant. His massive hand, scarred knuckles, faded tattoos between the fingers, reached out, then stopped halfway, trembling. "Where did you get that?" His voice was barely audible now. The old hospital. The words tumbled out of Tommy now. Urgent, desperate. The abandoned Cook County Hospital on Harrison Street. There's a broken window on the third floor. There's a little girl there. She's 12 years old. She's been hiding for 3 weeks. She's sick and freezing, and she won't leave because she thinks you don't want her anymore. The man stumbled backward. His hand found a stone bench near the grave. He sat hard like his legs had given out. The stuffed rabbit fell from Tommy's hand into his palm. He held it, as it might disintegrate. This isn't possible. But even as he said it, Tommy saw something in his eyes. Not just disbelief, recognition, horror, hope. She has burn marks on her arms, Tommy continued, his voice stronger now. Scars on her back from someone hitting her with something. Her left wrist is broken. It healed wrong. She's so thin I can see her bones through 2 sweaters. She sleeps curled around this backpack she won't let go of. She has a birthmark on her shoulder shaped like a heart. The man's breathing changed. Sharp, shallow gasps. His free hand came up to cover his mouth behind his beard. She knows your address, Tommy said. 3427 West Monroe Street. She knows your phone number. She recited all 10 digits to me. She calls for you in her sleep. Daddy, I'm scared. Daddy, please find me. Emma. The word broke coming out of the man's mouth. That's Emma. Every detail, the birthmark, the way she memorizes numbers. But Emma is dead. We buried her. I saw the body bag. I held her funeral. He told me about the fire, Tommy said, words coming faster now. 8 months ago, right? She said the firefighter gave her oxygen, and everything went black. When she woke up, she found herself in a group home with children she didn't know. They told her you didn't want her because she was too much trouble. They hurt her when she wouldn't stop asking for you. She escaped 3 weeks ago, but she's too scared to go to police because they said they'd kill you if she told anyone. The man was shaking now. This massive biker shaking like a leaf. She's been eating from dumpsters to survive, Tommy whispered. She's coughing so hard she spits up blood. She's dying, sir. She's dying waiting for you to find her. For 6 seconds, nothing moved. The man sat on the bench, the stuffed rabbit clutched in his fist, tears streaming into his beard. The wind picked up, sending snow devils swirling across the cemetery grounds. Then he surged to his feet, grabbed Tommy by both shoulders. Tommy flinched, but he was gentle despite the urgency. Where exactly? Where? Old Cook County Hospital, Harrison Street. Tommy's voice came out steady now. He'd practiced this, rehearsed it in his head during the 4-hour walk here. 3rd floor, East Wing. There's a fire escape you can climb. Windows broken near the old pediatric ward. She's in room 307. The doors are blocked from the outside, but there's a crawl space through the wall from 309. The man released him, pulled out a phone with hands that shook so badly he almost dropped it. Dialed, put it to his ear. Razor. His voice was commanding now. Urgent but controlled. I need every brother we've got. Full patch, prospects, hangarounds, everyone. Old Cook County Hospital, Harrison Street now. A pause. Tommy could hear a voice on the other end questioning. Razor, listen to me. The man's voice cracked again. My daughter might be alive. I know how it sounds. I know. But I'm looking at Mr. Hoppy right now. The rabbit that was supposed to be in her arms when we buried her. And this kid is telling me things only Emma would know. We need everyone. We need them now. Brother, please. Another pause. Shorter this time. Thank you. I'm heading there now. I'll explain everything when you arrive. He ended the call, looked at Tommy with eyes that held 1,000 emotions Tommy couldn't name. Get on the bike. You're taking me there right now. Tommy had never been on a motorcycle before. He'd certainly never been on one driven by a Hell's Angel who'd just learned his dead daughter might be alive. But he climbed on behind him, wrapped his arms around his leather vest, and held on as the Harley roared to life beneath them. The cemetery gates disappeared behind them at a speed that should have terrified him. But all Tommy could think about was Emma's face. How she'd looked at him 4 days ago with those huge hazel eyes and whispered, "If you find my daddy, tell him I'm sorry I wasn't good enough. Tell him I tried to come home." Tell him I love him. He was about to deliver all 3 messages. The ride took 9 minutes. 9 minutes of Tommy clinging to this stranger. The winter wind was cutting through his inadequate coat like razors. The engine vibration numbed his already frozen legs. They flew through red lights, wove between cars. The man drove like the road belonged to him, which, given the patches on his back, maybe it did. The old Cook County Hospital rose before them like a haunted monument. 6 stories of abandoned medical history, Chicago's most notorious ruin. Broken windows gaped like missing teeth. Graffiti covered every surface that could hold paint. The setting sun cast long shadows through the empty window frames, making the whole structure look like it was bleeding darkness. The Harley skidded to a stop near the east side fence. The man, Tommy, realized he didn't even know his name, was off the bike before the engine fully died. But he paused, turned back to him. "What's your name?" His voice was different now. Not gentle exactly, but human, as he'd remembered Tommy was a person, not just a messenger. Tommy Sullivan. "I'm Cole." He extended his hand. Tommy shook it. His palm dwarfed Tommy's. "Cole Carter. And if you're right about this, I don't have words for what you've just done." "She's there," Tommy promised. "I brought her soup yesterday. Hot soup in a thermos I found behind a restaurant." She could barely hold it. Her hands were shaking so badly from the cold. Cole's jaw tightened behind his beard. He turned to the fence, found a gap in the chain link, and ducked through. Tommy followed. His boots, too large, toes cramped, slipped on ice inside the fence line. Cole's hand shot out, steadied him. Then they were running. The fire escape was exactly where Tommy had said. Rusted metal stairs leading up the side of the building. Cole took them 2 at a time. Tommy struggled to keep up, his undersized body fighting against stairs built for adult strides. They reached the 3rd floor. The broken window was there, exactly as described. Cole pulled out his phone, used the flashlight function. The corridor stretched ahead, water-stained ceiling tiles hanging like broken teeth. Their breath came out in white clouds. "Room 307, Tommy said, his voice echoing off tile walls. "But we have to go through 309. They reached room 309. The door hung crooked on one hinge. Inside, the walls had holes punched through drywall and plaster. Cole shone his light through the largest hole. It connected to the next room, just barely wide enough for a child. Or a thin 13-year-old boy. "Emma." Cole's voice cracked on the name. "Emma, sweetheart, it's Daddy. Can you hear me?" Silence. Just the drip of water somewhere deeper in the building. Then, so soft Tommy almost missed it. "Daddy?" Cole made a sound Tommy had never heard a grown man make. Something between a sob and a gasp. He grabbed the edges of the hole in the wall and pulled. Drywall crumbled. Plaster dust filled the air. The hole widened 6 inches, then a foot, then enough for Cole's massive frame. He pushed through, Tommy right behind him. Room 307 was exactly 12 feet by 12 feet. Tommy knew because Emma had counted the tiles out loud to calm herself. 1 small window, broken, covered with cardboard. Concrete floor. Exposed pipes overhead. And in the far corner, buried under cardboard boxes and newspapers, and 1 thin sleeping bag Tommy had stolen from a donation bin, was a small shape. Cole dropped to his knees at the entrance. Didn't go in. Didn't crowd the space. "Emma." His voice was gentle now, barely above a whisper. "Sweetheart, it's really me. It's Daddy." The shape moved. Cardboard rustled. A small face emerged from the makeshift nest. Pale, gaunt, cheekbones too prominent, lips tinged blue, blonde hair matted against her skull, and eyes, hazel eyes that looked too big for her face that stared at Cole with confusion and desperate, dangerous hope. "You're not real," the girl whispered. Her voice was broken, hoarse. "Daddy lives far away. Daddy thinks I'm dead. You're a trick. The bad people said Daddy won't come. They showed me the newspaper. It said I died in the fire." Cole pulled off his leather vest. The one with all his patches, his identity, his rank. Held it out toward the girl. "Emma Rose Carter," Cole said, voice steady now despite the tears streaming into his beard. Born November 3rd, 2011. You love astronomy. You hate Brussels sprouts, but you'll eat them if I put bacon bits on top. Your favorite movie is The Princess Bride. You can recite every state capital because we made that song together. You have a birthmark on your shoulder shaped like a heart, and you used to tell everyone it meant you were born to love big. The girl's breathing changed. Faster, shallower. When you were 6, Cole continued, I bought you a stuffed rabbit at the state fair. You named him Mr. Hoppy because you said he looked happy. You took him everywhere. You were holding him when the fire started. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me you were gone. They told me you didn't make it out. Mr. Hoppy. The word came out of Emma like a wound opening. Where's Mr. Hoppy? The bad people took him. They took everything. Cole reached into his vest pocket, pulled out the worn stuffed rabbit, held it toward her. I've had him, sweetheart. I've kept him safe. Been keeping him safe for you. Emma stared at the rabbit, at the vest, at Tommy standing behind Cole. Back to Cole's face. Say the thing, Emma whispered. If you're real, say the thing we always say before bed. Cole didn't hesitate. You are braver than you believe. Emma continued, voice shaking. Stronger than you seem. And smarter than you think, Cole finished. But the most important thing is, even if we're apart, I'll always be with you. For 4 seconds, nobody moved. Then Emma was scrambling out of her cardboard nest, dragging the sleeping bag with her. Her left wrist bent at an odd angle, clearly broken and healed wrong. She stopped 3 feet from Cole, swaying as she might fall. Cole opened his arms. Waited. Let Emma choose. Daddy. Emma's voice was so small. Are you real? I'm real, sweetheart. I'm here, and I'm never letting you go again. Emma fell forward. Cole caught her, wrapped her in the leather vest first, then in his massive arms. The girl disappeared against his chest, her small body racked with sobs that sounded like they'd been locked inside for 8 months. Cole buried his face in his daughter's matted hair and wept. Tommy stood in the doorway watching, his own eyes burning. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. Behind them, from somewhere below, came the sound of motorcycles. Not 1 or 2, dozens. The rumble was growing louder, closer, filling the air like approaching thunder. The brothers were arriving. Cole stayed kneeling with Emma for a full 7 minutes, neither letting go. Tommy could see Emma's small hands clutching her father's shirt, could hear the girl's rasping breath and broken sobs, could see Cole's shoulders shaking as he held his child, who was supposed to be dead, who he'd buried, who he'd mourned for 8 months, was safe in his arms for the first time since June. Below them, the sound of motorcycles cut off one by one. Silence, then voices. Men calling to each other. Heavy boots on concrete floors below. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Cole. A voice echoed through the building. We're here. Where are you? Cole pulled back just enough to look at Emma's face, cupped it gently in his massive hands. Emma flinched at first. Tommy saw it. That instinctive recoil from touch. 8 months of abuse didn't disappear in 7 minutes. But Cole kept his movements slow, gentle, waiting for permission. Emma, sweetheart, a lot of my friends are here. They're here to help keep you safe. They're going to make sure the bad people never touch you again. Is that okay? Emma's eyes went wide with fear. There are lots of them? About 200 by the time everyone shows up, Cole said gently. But they're good guys. Every single one. They're my brothers, my family. And now they're your family too. Your protectors. 200. Emma's voice cracked. That's so many. That's how much you matter, sweetheart. That's how much we protect our own. Footsteps echoed closer in the corridor. Flashlight beams appeared. Then men, big men in leather vests, faces hard and weathered, looking exactly like what they were, outlaw bikers. But when they saw Emma, this tiny, broken child wrapped in her father's vest, clearly injured, barely able to stand, every single one of them stopped. Tommy watched their expressions shift, saw hardness become gentleness in real time. The first man to reach them was older, maybe 65, with long gray hair pulled back, patches that read President and Razor. Jesus Christ, Cole. His voice was rough with emotion. Is your girl? This is my daughter. Cole's voice was fierce, protective. This is Emma, and someone's going to pay for what they did to her. Razor knelt slowly, putting himself at Emma's eye level. Hey there, Emma. I'm Raymond, but everyone calls me Razor. I've known your daddy for 20 years. We're going to get you somewhere warm and safe, okay? Somewhere the bad people can't reach. Emma looked at her father. Cole nodded. Only then did Emma nod back. Another man appeared. This one is younger, maybe 40, but with the calm, assessing eyes of medical training. His patches read Stitch. Cole, I need to look at her. Not a woman's voice. That came from behind the men. Tommy blinked as a woman in her 50s pushed through the crowd of bikers. Her patches reading Road Captain and Mama Bear. I'm a former Army medic, Mama Bear said, her voice gentle but professional. Emma, honey, I'm going to check to make sure you're okay enough to move. Is that all right with you? Emma clutched her father tighter. Tommy watched her bury her face against Cole's chest. Can Daddy stay? Emma's muffled voice. Daddy's not going anywhere, Cole promised. He's going to hold you the whole time. Mama Bear nodded. Tommy watched as the woman examined Emma without asking her to let go of her father, checked her pulse at her neck, looked at her fingernails, her lips, her eyes. When Emma finally glanced at her, she asked quiet questions about pain, noticed the burn marks, the welts, the broken wrist. Her face stayed professionally calm, but Tommy saw her jaw tighten with each new injury she documented. She needs a hospital, Mama Bear said finally. Severe pneumonia, definite malnutrition, possible hypothermia. This wrist needs surgery, and these injuries need proper documentation and treatment. But she's stable enough to move. We should do it now before it gets colder. I'm calling an ambulance, another biker said. This one with patches reading Reaper and what looked like a former military bearing. No. Cole's voice was sharp. No ambulances. Not until we know who's involved. Everyone looked at him. Tommy. Cole turned to him. Tommy startled at his name. Tell them what Emma told you about the fire. Tommy swallowed. 20-plus bikers were staring at him now, waiting. He was 13, homeless, wearing a coat 3 sizes too big. He looked like nothing, but they were listening as he mattered. Emma said, Tommy began, voice shaking, that after the apartment fire, a firefighter carried her out. That's the last thing she remembers before waking up in a group home. She said they showed her in newspapers saying she had died. They told her dad didn't want her anymore because she was too much trouble. They kept her for, he looked at Emma. How long did they keep you? Emma's face was still pressed against Cole's chest, but she held up her fingers. All 10. Then all 10 again. Then all 10 again. Then 8 more fingers. Approximately 8 months, Cole said, his voice hollow. They've had her for 8 months since the fire. Razor's expression went dark. Cole, are you saying? I'm saying someone in emergency services declared my living daughter dead and gave me someone else's child to bury. Cole's voice was cold now. Controlled rage. I'm saying there's a trafficking network operating in this city using official channels. And I'm saying we're going to find every single person involved and make sure they never see daylight again. Reaper stepped forward. I used to be Chicago PD. If what you're saying is true, we need to be smart about this. Evidence, documentation. We need everything airtight before we bring this to authorities we can trust. Then we document everything, Razor said. His voice carried authority, the kind that made everyone stand straighter. Mama Bear, you photograph every injury on that child, every mark. You write down her testimony exactly as she gives it. Reaper, you start pulling records. The fire report, the death certificate, the autopsy report, all of it. Smoke. He gestured to a younger biker with tech savvy written all over him. You start digging into digital. Find out who was on duty that night, who signed what paperwork. He turned to the assembled brothers. More had arrived while they talked. Tommy could see them filing into the building, filling the corridor. Easily 50 or 60 now, with more coming. Brothers, Razor's voice echoed off the tile walls. This is what we do. This is why we exist. To protect those who can't protect themselves. This girl was stolen from her father and held captive for 8 months by people who were supposed to save her. That ends tonight. A rumble of agreement from the assembled bikers. But we do this right, Razor continued. We do this smart. We follow the law until the law gives us reason not to. We gather evidence. We build a case. And we make sure every single person involved in this goes to prison for the rest of their natural lives. Clear? Clear, came the unanimous response. Cole stood slowly, Emma still wrapped in his vest, held against his chest like something infinitely precious. The girl was so small against his father's frame, so breakable, but alive, breathing, home. Tommy, Cole said quietly. Thank you doesn't cover it, but thank you. For finding her, for feeding her, for risking yourself to tell me. You saved my daughter's life. Every biker in that corridor turned to look at Tommy. He felt his face heat despite the cold. He's been bringing me food for 4 days. Emma mumbled against her father's shirt. He gave me his sleeping bag. He's the only one who helped. Razor studied Tommy for a long moment, took in his oversized coat, his 2 large boots, his thin face, and chapped lips. How old are you, kid? 13. Where are your parents? Tommy's throat tightened. My mom died 2 years ago. My dad's in prison. I've been on my own since last summer. You were just surviving, Razor finished. And while surviving yourself, you saved someone else's child. That takes a special kind of courage. He paused. We're going to help you too. But first, we need you to help us a bit more. Can you do that? Tommy nodded. I need you to tell Reaper everything Emma told you. Every detail, dates, times, descriptions of the people who held her, anything you remember. And then, Cole added, his eyes meeting Tommy's with an intensity that made him feel seen for the first time in months. You're going to let us help you. No arguments. You saved my daughter. I owe you everything. And Hell's Angels pay their debts. The motorcycles kept coming. By the time Mama Bear had finished her preliminary examination of Emma, documenting 23 separate injuries with her phone camera, each photograph time-stamped and geotagged, the rumble of engines had grown from a distant thunder to a constant roar that echoed through the abandoned hospital's empty halls. Reaper stood at the main entrance, counting. 94 from the Chicago chapter. Milwaukee's here, that's 61 more. Rockford just pulled in, 43. Madison's 15 minutes out, another 38. He looked at Razor. We're going to hit over 230 brothers within the hour. Razor nodded once, sharp and satisfied. Good. We're going to need every single one. Emma had fallen asleep against her father's chest, exhaustion and relief finally overwhelming the adrenaline that had kept her alert for 3 weeks. Cole held her like something that might vanish if he loosened his grip even slightly. Mama Bear had wrapped both of them in thermal blankets from someone's saddlebag. Every biker carried emergency supplies, habits from years of long-distance riding. We need to move her, Mama Bear said quietly. The hospital? Not yet, Cole's voice was firm. Not until we know who to trust. Then we bring the hospital to her, Mama Bear said. She turned toward the entrance, raised her voice. Wrench, get Doc Patterson on the phone. Tell him we need a house call. Tell him it's Cole's daughter, and we're paying cash. A voice called back. On it. Tommy sat against the concrete wall, watching everything unfold with a strange sense of unreality. 96 hours ago, he'd been alone, anonymous, invisible. Now he was at the center of something massive, something that felt like justice taking physical form in leather and chrome. Reaper crouched beside him. Up close, Tommy could see the signs of his former profession. The way he moved was with controlled precision. The way his eyes constantly scanned for threats. The cop training that never fully left, even after the badge came off. Tommy, I need you to walk me through everything Emma told you. Every conversation, every detail about the people who held her, the places she was kept. Can you do that? Tommy nodded, and for the next 25 minutes, he recited everything. Emma's fragmented stories about the group home, about the firefighter who'd carried her from the burning building and given her to someone else. About the foster parents who'd moved her between houses, about the threats. If you tell, we'll kill your daddy. About the escape 3 weeks ago. Running through snow in just a nightgown, feet going numb, lungs burning. Reaper recorded everything on his phone. His expression stayed neutral, professional, but Tommy saw his jaw tighten with each new detail. When Tommy finished, Reaper was quiet for a long moment. The fire chief who responded to that apartment fire, Reaper said, finally. His name is Michael Brennan. 32 years with the Chicago Fire Department. Multiple awards. Respected. Trusted. He paused. And if what Emma is saying is true, he's been using that trust to traffic children for over 15 years. Can you prove it? Razor asked from across the small space. We're going to, Reaper stood. But we need to be smart. If Brennan has been doing this for years, he's got a network. People are covering for him. We go after him directly without evidence, and they all scatter. Then we build the case first, Razor said. Smoke, where are you with the digital? The younger biker appeared, laptop bag over his shoulder, the kind of tech savvy that marked him as the club's digital specialist. Already pulling everything I can access legally, Smoke said. Fire reports, death certificates, autopsy records. But here's what's interesting. The fire report from June 18th lists Michael Brennan as the incident commander. He declared Emma Rose Carter dead at the scene. But the body that was buried, he scrolled through his laptop. The DNA on file doesn't match the sample taken from Cole's home for identification purposes. It's close, same age range, same general build, but it's not Emma. Everyone went silent. They gave me someone else's child to bury, Cole said, his voice hollow. Some other father's daughter. Some other family's loss. And kept yours alive to sell, Mama Bear said quietly, her hand on Emma's small back. Smoke kept typing. I'm looking at the medical examiner who signed the death certificate. Dr. Patricia Henley. She's been with the Cook County Medical Examiner's office for 23 years. Solid record. But, he paused, scrolling, she's got a pattern. Statistical anomaly. Higher rate of expedited identifications in child fatality cases than any other me in the department. How much higher? Razor asked. 42% above average over the past 15 years. The number hung in the air like poison. 15 years, Cole said quietly. How many children in 15 years? Smoke kept typing. I'm cross-referencing expedited child death cases with single-parent families, low-income families, and cases where there might be fewer people asking questions. His face went pale. Conservatively, it could be anywhere from 30 to 50 children. The silence in that corridor was absolute. Even the sound of motorcycles outside had faded as engines cut off, brothers dismounting, waiting for orders. Razor's voice, when he spoke, was colder than Tommy had ever heard a human voice go. We're not just taking down one corrupt fire chief. We're dismantling an entire trafficking network that's been operating under official cover for over 15 years. We need witnesses, Reaper said. People who saw something and didn't speak up. People who suspected but stayed quiet. We need them on record. I know someone, Mama Bear said quietly. Janet Rodriguez is a social worker with DCFS. She was assigned to Emma's case after the fire. She mentioned to me months ago that something felt off. The case was closed too quickly. That Michael Brennan kept insisting the family had no other relatives, no support system. She said she should have pushed back. Bring her in, Razor ordered. Anyone else? David Kim, another voice called from down the corridor. Fire investigator. He handled the arson investigation at Cole's apartment. I saw him at a diner last month, looked haunted. Kept talking about how some fires don't make sense. How evidence gets lost. Get him too. And Marcus Webb, Wrench added. Retired firefighter, worked with Brennan for 12 years. He's been saying for years that something about Brennan's child rescues didn't add up. The survival rate was too low. Nobody listened. Razor looked at Reaper. How fast can you get these witnesses here? Within 3 hours if they're willing. Faster if we're persuasive. Be persuasive, but legal. Everything we do from here on out has to be airtight. The witnesses arrived in stages over the next 2 hours. Janet Rodriguez came first. 48 years old, a social worker for 19 years. Hands that still shook slightly when she talked about that June night. Tommy watched as Reaper interviewed her in a makeshift command center the brothers had set up in one of the less damaged rooms on the first floor. Someone had brought portable lights. Someone else had brought folding chairs and a card table. The bikers worked with military efficiency, assigning roles, establishing protocols, and documenting everything. I was the caseworker assigned to Emma Carter, Janet said, her voice steady but pained. June 19th, the day after the fire. Mother deceased, father hospitalized with smoke inhalation and second-degree burns. The child was deceased, according to the fire chief's report. Is that normal protocol? Reaper asked. In fatality cases, yes, but something about this one felt rushed. Michael Brennan kept insisting there were no other relatives to notify. No grandparents, no aunts, no uncles. He said Cole Carter was a single father with no support system. But when I pulled the file, there was already a case closure notice. Signed by my supervisor, Gregory Walsh. Case marked family deceased, no action needed. That's irregular? Janet's hands twisted in her lap. It's not irregular for a death case to be closed quickly, but I'd gotten 5 other case closures from Walsh that year. All children, all marked deceased in fires or accidents. All closed before I could do any follow-up. When I brought it up, he said I was being paranoid, that I was looking for problems where there weren't any. He recommended I take stress leave. Did you? For 3 weeks. When I came back, he'd reassigned all my pending cases. Said I was overwhelmed, needed a lighter load. I accepted it. I shouldn't have. Reaper pulled up a file on Smoke's laptop. Gregory Walsh, DCFS supervisor, 52 years old, 18 years with the department. He bought an $850,000 house in Naperville 4 years ago on a salary of $63,000 per year. Janet's face went white. Oh my God, he's part of it. He's part of it. Reaper confirmed. And we're going to prove it. David Kim arrived next. 39 years old, fire investigator. Eyes that looked like they hadn't seen peace in months. I investigated the fire at Cole Carter's apartment, David said, voice flat. June 18th. 3rd floor, east wing. Fire started in the kitchen, electrical, according to the preliminary report. But when I examined the scene, something didn't add up. What didn't add up? Razor asked. The burn patterns, David rubbed his face. They were consistent with an accelerant, not an electrical fire. I found traces of kerosene in 3 locations. But when I submitted my findings to my supervisor, I was told the lab tests came back negative, that I'd contaminated the samples. The fire was ruled accidental, and the case was closed. Who was your supervisor? Captain Richard Stone, 28 years with CFD. Michael Brennan's best friend. Reaper pulled up another file. Richard Stone, fire captain. He's got a vacation home in Wisconsin worth $500,000. On a fire captain's salary. David's hands clenched into fists. I knew something was wrong. I knew it, but I let them bury it. You're unburying it now, Cole said quietly from across the room. Emma's still asleep in his arms. That matters. Marcus Webb was the last to arrive. 68 years old, retired firefighter, gray hair, and a face that spoke of too many years carrying guilt. I worked with Michael Brennan for 12 years, Marcus said. He looked at Cole with open anguish. I was at your apartment fire. I helped search the building. I was there when Michael brought out that little girl's body. His voice broke. I didn't recognize her. I should have. I'd met Emma twice at the station. She came with you to see the fire trucks. But Michael had her wrapped in a blanket, said the smoke inhalation had been severe, and said we needed to preserve the scene. We never questioned it. What made you suspicious? Razor asked gently. The pattern. Over the years, Michael's child rescue rate was extraordinary, highest in the department. But his child fatality rate was also high. Not high enough to raise flags in the system, but high enough that I noticed. And every single child death under his command resulted in closed casket funerals. Every single one. Marcus looked down at his hands. When I mentioned it to the chief, he said Michael just got the worst calls. Bad luck. Coincidence. I stopped asking questions. I'm part of the reason this kept happening. You're part of the reason we're stopping it now? Tommy said quietly, surprising himself. Every head turned toward him. He felt his face heat, but he didn't look away. By 10:47 p.m., less than 7 hours after Tommy had approached Cole at the cemetery, the case was taking shape. Smoke had compiled a dossier that read like a nightmare. Michael Brennan, Fire Chief, Network Coordinator, 32 years of CFD. An estimated 35 to 50 children were trafficked over 15 years. Current whereabouts, off-duty, home, address known. Dr. Patricia Henley, medical examiner. Falsified records. $420,000 in debt verified through cross-referenced financial records. 42% higher expedited identification rate than departmental average. Death certificates are signed within hours instead of the standard 48 to 72-hour time frame. Gregory Walsh, DCFS supervisor. Blocked investigations. $850,000 home on $63,000 salary. Mortgage records pulled. Pattern of premature case closures matching Brennan's fatality declarations. 62 cases closed without standard welfare checks over a 1 year. Captain Richard Stone, CFD. Evidence tampering. 5 complaints of falsified reports, all dismissed. Partner to fire reports filed by Brennan. Lost evidence in 17 cases over 8 years. We need to take this to the FBI, Reaper said. This is federal trafficking, conspiracy, and corruption at multiple levels. Agreed, Razor said. But first, we secure Emma's testimony. Doc Patterson's on his way. He'll examine Emma, document everything medically. Mama Bear's photographs are time-stamped and geotagged. Witness statements are recorded. We hand this to the feds as a complete package. What about Brennan? Cole's voice was dangerous. He's out there right now, free, while my daughter. He won't be free for long, Razor promised. Smoke looked up from his laptop. I've been monitoring police scanners. APB just went out for Michael Brennan. Federal warrant. FBI is already moving. How? Tommy asked. Reaper smiled grimly. Because I used to be Chicago PD. I still know who's clean. Made a call to an old friend who made it to the FBI. Sent him everything we compiled. He moved fast. The room went quiet. Waiting. Then Smoke's police scanner crackled to life. Unit 23, suspect in custody. 1542 North Sheffield Avenue. Michael Brennan was detained without incident. Without incident. That was the key phrase. No violence, no chase. Justice is moving with quiet efficiency. Where was he? Razor asked. Smoke pulled up the location, listened to scanner chatter. His expression shifted to something like disgust. His house. He was in his living room watching television. They said he looked confused when they showed up. Asked what this was about, like he had no idea. Like, trafficking children for 15 years was just normal. Cole made a sound low in his throat. Mama Bear put a hand on his arm, steadying. Henley and Walsh. Reaper asked. Henley was arrested at her office, arrested during the evening shift. Walsh at his home in Naperville. Smoke paused. Stones in the wind. Someone must have tipped him. He won't get far, Razor said. Not with every biker in Illinois looking for him. The FBI arrived at the old hospital at 11:20 p.m. For agents, including Reaper's contact, a man in his 50s named James Mitchell, with 23 years with the Bureau, specializing in trafficking cases. He took one look at the 230 bikers surrounding the building, the organized command center, the documented evidence, and Emma sleeping in her father's arms, and said simply, "You've done our job for us." "We did our job," Razor corrected. "Our job is to protect our own. Your job is to make sure they stay in prison." Agent Mitchell nodded. "They will. What you've compiled here, witness statements, medical documentation, financial records, digital evidence, this is better than 95% of cases that land on my desk. The charges will be federal. conspiracy to traffic minors, multiple counts of kidnapping, fraud, and corruption. Henley and Walsh are looking at 25 to life. Brennan, he paused. Brennan is looking at multiple consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. There are other children, Cole said quietly. Emma stirred against his chest, but didn't wake. Emma said there were other kids in that group home. She said they got moved. Sold. Where are they? That's what we're going to find out, Mitchell promised. With Emma's testimony and the evidence you've gathered, we can start dismantling the entire network. Find the other victims. Bring them home. He looked at the assembled bikers. I know what people think when they see this many Hells Angels in one place. They think of violence, chaos, and crime. But what I'm seeing here is a brotherhood that moved heaven and earth to save one child and expose a system that failed her. That's not a crime. That's justice. Razor nodded once. We know what we are. We don't need permission to protect our own. You have my respect, Mitchell said, and my word that we'll handle this right. The room went silent. Then Razor turned to the assembled brothers, over 200 of them now, filling every available space on the first floor. Brothers, his voice carried. All in favor of turning this case over to federal authorities and trusting them to see justice through. For exactly 5 seconds, nothing. Just the distant sound of traffic on the interstate and the ticking of someone's watch and the collective breath of 230 men waiting to vote on whether justice would be served through the system or outside it. Then one by one, every hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation, not a single dissenting voice. 230 men voted unanimously to trust the system they'd spent lifetimes distrusting because a father and his daughter deserved the protection of law, not the chaos of revenge. Unanimous, Razor said. Agent Mitchell, she's yours. But we're not leaving. Not until Emma is safe in a hospital. Not until we know for certain that the people who did this can't reach her. Fair enough, Mitchell said. And for what it's worth, I'm glad you're staying. Dr. James Patterson arrived at midnight with a medical bag that looked like it had seen 4 decades of house calls. He was 76 years old, semi-retired, and had been the Hells Angels' unofficial doctor for 25 years. He'd stitched knife wounds in clubhouse back rooms and delivered babies in emergencies. But when he saw Emma, this tiny, broken child wrapped in her father's leather vest, his weathered face softened in a way Tommy had never seen a doctor's face soften. Hello, Emma, Dr. Patterson said gently, kneeling beside Cole. Your daddy tells me you've been very brave. I'm going to make sure you're healthy enough to go to a real hospital where they can help you feel better. Is that okay? Emma nodded against her father's chest. She hadn't let go of Cole for over 4 hours. The examination took 52 minutes. Dr. Patterson worked slowly, explaining each step, asking permission before touching, letting Emma maintain contact with her father the entire time. Mama Bear assisted, her medic training evident in the way she anticipated what was needed before Dr. Patterson asked. When he finished, Dr. Patterson pulled Cole aside. Not far. Emma could still see her father, but far enough for privacy. Severe pneumonia in both lungs. Advanced stage. Acute malnutrition. She's lost approximately 28 pounds. Chemical burns on arms from what appears to be cleaning products. Non-life-threatening, but it will scar permanently. The broken wrist healed incorrectly will need surgical correction. Evidence of repeated physical abuse. Welts across her back consistent with a belt or similar object. Signs of prolonged psychological trauma. Dr. Patterson's voice was clinical, but his eyes were furious. She needs a hospital immediately. Intravenous antibiotics, nutrition support, full imaging to check for internal injuries, and psychiatric evaluation. I can stabilize her here, but she needs more than I can provide. She needs comprehensive care. Children's Hospital? Cole asked. Northwestern is closer and has an excellent pediatric unit, Dr. Patterson said. I'll call ahead. Make sure they know to expect her. Make sure the right people are waiting. Agent Mitchell stepped forward. We'll have federal protection. No one gets near her without authorization. And 230 bikers, Razor added. We'll establish a rotation. Someone from the club is outside her hospital room 24 hours a day until you tell us it's safe. Dr. Patterson smiled slightly. That might be the most secure pediatric patient in Illinois history. The ambulance that came for Emma was driven by paramedics Mitchell personally vetted. Cole rode with his daughter, refusing to be separated. Razor, Mama Bear, and Reaper followed on their bikes, and behind them, in a formation that would later be described by local news as unprecedented, rode 112 Hells Angels. The convoy moved through Chicago's west side like a protective wall. Cars pulled over. People stopped on the sidewalks to watch. By the time they reached Northwestern Memorial Hospital, the parking lot was surrounded by motorcycles, brothers dismounting in organized rows, taking up positions at every entrance. Tommy watched from the back of Wrench's bike. He'd offered Tommy a ride, said he deserved to see this through. Tommy had never felt so protected in his entire life. Inside, Emma was admitted immediately. Private room on the pediatric floor, federal agents at the elevator, Hells Angels at the door, nurses who'd been briefed on exactly what this child had endured, and who treated her with a gentleness that made Tommy's throat tight. Cole never left her side. Sat in a chair pulled up to the hospital bed, holding Emma's hand even when his daughter finally fell into real sleep. The kind of sleep that comes when your body knows it's safe. When exhaustion can finally claim you without fear. The logistics unfolded over the next 4 days with the same efficiency the brothers had shown at the hospital. Wrench, the mechanic who ran the club's legitimate garage, personally delivered Cole's belongings to the hospital. Clothes, toiletries, Emma's favorite books from their apartment that had survived the fire, and her star chart that Cole had kept on his bedroom wall. When Emma woke up and saw her star chart hanging next to her hospital bed, she cried. Not the broken sobs from the abandoned hospital, but something gentler. Relief. Healing. Home. Stitch, the former Marine, coordinated with hospital administration. Made sure Cole could stay in Emma's room indefinitely. Made sure meal trays came for both of them. Made sure the nursing staff knew exactly who to call if anyone suspicious showed up. Mama Bear visited daily. Sat with Emma when Cole needed to shower or make phone calls. Read her stories. Taught her breathing exercises for when the nightmares came. Because they would come, she explained gently, and that was normal, and they'd face them together. Reaper worked with Agent Mitchell and the Chicago PD's internal affairs, built timelines, cross-referenced cases, and found 8 more children over the past 15 years who'd been declared dead in similar circumstances. Closed casket, rushed identification, families too traumatized to push back. Federal investigators were now searching for those children, for had already been located in other states, alive, recovered from adoptive families who'd had no idea they were purchasing trafficked children. Smoke set up a secure laptop in Emma's hospital room. Let her play educational games when she feels strong enough. Taught her basic astronomy software. Showed her how to track constellations. Because smart kids like you need to keep their minds busy, Smoke said with a wink. Emma smiled. First real smile Tommy had seen. And Tommy was told he wasn't leaving either. Razor found him on the 4th day, sitting in the hospital cafeteria with a cup of free hot chocolate he'd been nursing for an hour, trying to figure out where to go next. The warming shelter opened at 6. He had 4 hours to kill. Kid, Razor said, sliding into the chair across from him. We need to talk about you. Tommy tensed. I should go. I don't want to be in the way. You're not in the way. You're family now. You saved one of ours. That makes you one of ours. He paused. Cole told me about your situation. You've been on the streets since last summer. Father is in prison. Mother passed. No other family. Tommy said nothing. Here's what's going to happen, Razor continued. The club has a fund. Brotherhood Emergency Fund for members and families in crisis. We're extending it to you. We've already contacted a group home that's actually decent. Run by an ex-biker named Sarah Thompson. She's a good person. She'll take you in, make sure you go back to school, make sure you've got what you need. I can't, Tommy started. You can. You will. Razor's voice was firm but kind. You've been living on the streets for 8 months, and you still found it in yourself to save a dying girl. That tells me you're worth investing in. That tells me you deserve the chance you never got. Tommy's eyes burned. Why? Because that's what we do. We protect our own. And you, Tommy Sullivan, are ours now. 7 months later, Tommy stood in the parking lot of Lincoln Park High School, his backpack slung over one shoulder. New backpack, bought with money from the allowance Sarah gave him for doing chores around the group home. He'd enrolled back in school, 8th grade. His teacher said he was behind, but catching up fast. He'd always been smart. Homelessness hadn't changed that, just delayed it. He'd made honor roll his first semester back. Sarah had cried. Cole had called to congratulate him. Emma had made him a card with stars all over it. Today was different, though. Today was the day Emma came to visit. The Harley pulled up at exactly 3:30 p.m. Cole was punctual about pickups now. Never wanted Emma waiting. Emma hopped off the back, removed her helmet, proper helmet now, child-sized with constellation designs, and ran toward Tommy with the energy of a healthy 12-year-old. She'd gained back the 28 pounds plus 7 more. Her wrist had been surgically corrected and now worked perfectly. The scars remained. Chemical burns, welts, reminders of 8 months that would never fully fade. But they were healing, fading to white, becoming part of her story instead of the whole story. Tommy, Emma crashed into him with a hug that nearly knocked him over. Guess what? I'm joining the astronomy club at school. And Dad got me a telescope for my room. We're going to watch the meteor shower next week. Tommy laughed. That's amazing, Emma. Cole approached more slowly, hands in pockets, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt instead of his vest. He saved the leather for club business now, kept it separate from Dad's business. He'd gained weight, too. Started smiling again. The broken father had learned to live. How's school? Cole asked Tommy. Good. Really good. Sarah's helping me with algebra. I might actually pass. Your living situation? Sarah's great. The group home's not bad. There are 4 of us. We get along okay. Cole nodded slowly. Sarah's good people. She'll look out for you. They stood there for a moment, the 3 of them, in a high school parking lot on a Tuesday afternoon in September. Sunlight warmed their faces. Birds were singing in the trees that lined the athletic fields. The sound of students laughing as they headed to after-school activities. Normal. Safe. Alive. Hey, Tommy, Emma tugged his sleeve. Can you come over for dinner on Friday? Dad's making his famous lasagna. And we can look at the stars after. I'll be there, Tommy promised. 4 months after that, 11 months after the cemetery, after the abandoned hospital, after the impossible truth, Emma Rose Carter stood on a small stage in the Hells Angels Chicago clubhouse, microphone in hand, looking out at 230 bikers and their families gathered for the annual Brotherhood Thanksgiving dinner. She wore a dress her grandmother, Cole's mother, who'd come back into their lives after learning Emma was alive, had bought her. Her hair had grown back, blonde and shiny, pulled into a ponytail. The color had returned to her face. Her eyes held light again. She'd started 7th grade in September, made friends, joined the astronomy club, was sleeping through most nights without nightmares. But that wasn't why she was on stage. I want to say thank you, Emma said, her voice small but steady, to everyone. For finding me, for protecting me, for making the bad people go away. Michael Brennan had been sentenced to 12 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. Dr. Patricia Henley got 30 years. Gregory Walsh got 22. Captain Richard Stone, caught trying to flee to Mexico, got 18 years and would never work in emergency services again. 8 other children had been recovered. 4 more were still being searched for, but the network was dismantled. The system is exposed. Reforms were already being implemented. Mandatory DNA confirmation for child death certificates, independent review of fire fatality cases, whistleblower protections for emergency responders who reported concerns, and oversight committees for DCFS case closures. And I want to say thank you to Tommy, Emma continued, pointing to where he sat near the middle, trying to be invisible as always, because he found me when I was hiding. He fed me when I was hungry, and he was brave enough to tell my dad the truth, even though he had nothing and was surviving on his own. Every head turned toward Tommy. He felt his face heat. Tommy saved my life, Emma said simply, and I'm going to remember that forever. I'm going to be brave like him. I'm going to help people as he helped me. The applause started slowly, then built. 230 bikers and their families standing, clapping for a 14-year-old boy who'd been homeless and invisible 11 months ago. Razor stood, raised his hand. The applause stopped. Tommy Sullivan, he said, his voice carrying across the clubhouse. The club has voted. Unanimous decision. We're giving you a road name. From this day forward, when you're with us, you're Hawk. Because you see what others miss. Because you act when others look away. Because you've earned your place in this family. Tommy felt tears slip down his face. He didn't try to hide them. Hawk, the assembled brothers repeated. Not a chant. A recognition. An acceptance. Family. This story isn't really about bikers or patches or motorcycles rumbling through city streets. It's about a 13-year-old boy who had every reason to look away, who was fighting his own desperate battle for survival, who had nothing to give, choosing to act anyway, choosing to see another human being in need and refusing to let her die alone. It's about a father who never stopped believing something was wrong, even when everyone told him to move on, to heal, to accept, who held on to a worn stuffed rabbit for 8 months because letting go felt like betrayal. It's about 230 men who could have chosen revenge and violence, but chose justice and patience instead, who understood that real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can protect without destroying yourself in the process. There are Emmas everywhere. Children falling through cracks that shouldn't exist. Children are being hurt by people who are supposed to protect them. Children are being erased by systems that are designed to fail them. And there are Tommies everywhere. People barely surviving themselves who still find the courage to speak up when they see wrong. Who risks what little they have to help someone who is even less. You don't need a leather vest to be a protector. You don't need a motorcycle or a patch or a brotherhood of 230. You just need to care enough to act. Pay attention. Listen when a child hesitates. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Call the right people. Make the noise that needs to be made. Stand in the gap between a victim and the system that's failing them. Be the person who doesn't look away. Because here's what Tommy proved that frozen February afternoon. Sometimes the most powerless person in a room holds the key to saving someone else's entire world. Sometimes the person society overlooks is the only one brave enough to speak the truth nobody wants to hear. And sometimes, if they're very lucky, that person finds a family waiting to catch them when they fall. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that real protectors still exist. Drop a comment telling us who your protector was or who you protected when nobody else would. Let us know you stand with Tommy, with Emma, with every person who refuses to stay silent when they see wrong. Because this world needs more Hawks. And maybe, just maybe, that person could be you. The sun set over Chicago on a warm November evening, turning the sky orange and purple. In a group home on the north side, Tommy Sullivan sat at a desk doing homework. Sarah cooked dinner in the kitchen, humming along to the radio. The scent of roasted chicken filled the space. Tommy's phone buzzed. Text from Emma. Meteor shower peak is tonight at 9. You still coming over? He smiled. Typed back. Wouldn't miss it. Through his window, he could hear the distant sound of motorcycles. The brothers are on their evening ride. Protected. Protecting. Living the code they'd taught him. Stand up. Speak out. Never look away. His worn stuffed rabbit, the one Emma had given back to him after the reunion, saying, "You saved me." You keep Mr. Hoppy, sat on the corner of his desk. One ear missing, button eyes hanging by threads. A symbol of impossible hope that turned out to be real. He picked it up, held it for a moment, then set it back down. Tonight he'd go to Emma's house, watch the stars with her and Cole, feel like family. Tomorrow he'd go to school, keep working hard, keep moving forward. And somewhere in Chicago, another child who needed help would hopefully find their own voice, their own protector, their own impossible salvation. Because Tommy Sullivan had proven something that cold February day. Miracles don't always come from heaven. Sometimes they come from a homeless boy with a stuffed rabbit and the courage to speak 6 impossible words. She's alive. She's been waiting for you.